who were hired on a lucrative contract basis. GRS officers served as bodyguards for spies, diplomats, and other American personnel in the field. The more dangerous a posting, the more likely GRS operators were nearby in the shadows, protecting America's envoys and covert intelligence gatherers. Few, if any, postings were more dangerous than Benghazi, Libya. As a former Navy SEAL, Jack was a natural fit for the GRS. At 38 years old, self-possessed and darkly handsome, he stood 6'2" and carried 210 pounds on his muscular frame. In his usual attire of a black t-shirt and khaki shorts, Jack looked like a strapping construction worker. On the plane, though, wearing dress slacks, brown leather shoes, and a tucked-in button-down shirt, he might be mistaken for an American businessman seeking export-import opportunities 10 months after the death of deposed dictator Muammar al-Gaddafi. At least that was Jack's hope as the jet's wheels touched down. Jack's arrival marked his first visit to Libya and the start of his 6th trip as a GRS operator. His previous trips had taken him to the Middle East and elsewhere. For official purposes in Benghazi, Jack would simply say that he'd be working as a security staffer for diplomats from the U.S. State Department. Men who protect spies don't advertise that fact. Before leaving the plane, Jack slipped off his gold wedding band and tucked it into a small box for safekeeping. He'd picked up the habit years earlier, after deciding that he didn't want his enemies to know that he had a family, a wife and 2 young sons waiting for him back home in the Pacific Northwest. Jack stepped onto the tarmac and felt the bone-dry afternoon heat of the Libyan summer. His aviator sunglasses were modest protection from the harsh white glare of the North African sun. Entering the run-down terminal building, Jack pushed through the doors to a room with a luggage carousel and more than 100 people packed inside a space that would have felt crowded with half as many. His fellow luggage seekers, most of them men, shouted in Arabic and gestured wildly as they fought to claim bags. The air was thick with flies and the nauseating stench of baked-on body odor. Jack took short breaths through his mouth in a futile effort to keep both at bay. He'd been on guard from the moment he left the plane, a reflex reaction whenever Jack arrived in a hostile territory. Hyper-aware, his jaw set, his every movement grew deliberate, measured to convey in body language that he wasn't looking for trouble, but he wouldn't flinch from it either. Jack felt the stares of strangers upon him and knew that at least some were armed. He also knew that everyone watching him had reached the same instant conclusion: American. He suspected that at least some wished him dead. As he waited for his bags, Jack caught sight of a burly, bearded man standing with his back against a wall at the periphery of the scrum. The man's eyes scanned the crowd while his body remained as still as a lizard on a tree limb. He wore khaki cargo pants and a navy blue button-down shirt, untucked, Jack knew, to conceal a gun in the waistband. Their eyes met for an instant. Jack returned his gaze to the luggage carousel, and the bearded man remained expressionless, glued to the wall. When Jack grabbed his bags, the man pushed away from the wall and turned toward the exit door leading to customs. Jack followed a short distance behind. By the time Jack stepped outside the terminal building, he and the bearded man had closed the distance between them and fallen into step with each other. Still they didn't speak as the man led Jack toward a white Toyota pickup truck caked in dust. Jack tossed his bags in the back and slid into the passenger seat. The bearded man got behind the wheel. In a single practiced motion, the man reached down and grabbed a pistol. "It's loaded," the man said. He held it out, butt end first. Jack relaxed as he took the gun. He reached out his right hand and returned a powerful handshake offered by his fellow former SEAL and GRS colleague Tyrone Woods, whose radio call sign was Roan. "How's it going, brother?" Roan said, a bright smile emerging from his thick salt and pepper beard. As Roan started the truck, they caught up on each other's lives and families, then set aside those thoughts like wedding rings slipped into boxes. Roan drove toward the airport exit, bound for an upscale neighborhood called Western Fuahat. Their destination was a CIA-rented property known as the Annex, which was the agency's secret headquarters in Benghazi. Less than a mile from the Annex was the United States public presence in the city, a walled estate known as the U.S. Special Mission Compound, which served as a base for State Department diplomats. As their talk turned to business, Roan filled Jack in about the